The following story is based on a submission from one of our subscribers. For privacy purposes, all names, locations, and identifying details have been changed. Enjoy the story. Middenhut, which is a small town in Canada, used to be a place no one had heard of, then Jude changed that in 2008. An 18-year-old smiling young man named Jude stepped off of a plane in Middenhut and began making his way toward the baggage claim. As he walked, everyone in the airport stopped and stared up at him. Jude was 6 feet 9 inches tall, and he was from Nigeria, making him easily one of the most unique people in all of Middenhut. Jude, who was the son of a Nigerian politician, had worked really hard to earn his slot at the local university called the College of the Mythical. Not long after the first semester of Jude's freshman year had started, he was not only flourishing academically but also socially. His big smile, his charm, and his incredibly good manners had earned him many friends as well as the nickname the Gentle Giant. But the person Jude most closely bonded with while he was in Middenhut was another student named Dave. Dave, in addition to being a student at the College of the Mythical, was also a passionate photographer and actually worked part-time for the local newspaper as a freelance photographer. Dave and Jude had briefly met in late 2006 at their campus's billiard halls when they were both playing pool, but that interaction had not made them friends. What had cemented their friendship and made them very, very close was one night in early 2007, Jude had gotten a job as a bouncer at a local bar, and Dave had come to that bar not to see Jude but to go to take some drinks. So Jude is at the front checking people in, and then he hears this commotion in the bar behind him, and he turns, and he sees Dave is getting attacked by this huge guy that is stronger than him, and so without any hesitation, Jude turns and just starts galloping into the bar. He leaps over chairs, and jumps into the fray, and fights off Dave's attacker. After the dust settled, Dave was so thankful for Jude, and the experience bonded these two very different people, and after that, they became totally inseparable. Over the next couple of semesters, the pair would often go off on long rides outside of Middenhut into the mountains and the forest, and they would just chat. Jude would talk about what it was like to live in Nigeria and how he was really here to try to be successful like his father, and Dave would talk about his passion for photography and what it was like growing up in Canada around Middenhut. On one very memorable day, the pair were driving at night along the kind of winding road that went through a forest, when all of a sudden a moose leapt onto the road and blocked their way. Dave at the last second had to swerve to avoid the moose. But ultimately they did not get into an accident, and it was just a close call, so Dave was totally fine. He had kind of recovered within seconds of getting past the moose, but Jude, who was in the passenger seat, was totally shaken up by it, and when Dave started talking to Jude about why he was so shaken up, because after all they did not get into an accident, Jude would admit that he wasn't shaken up because they almost got into an accident. He was shaken up because he saw a moose. And he didn't even know moose existed, and so seeing this enormous creature suddenly in the middle of the road right in front of them just had totally spooked him. They had escaped this near-death experience, but they didn't know one of them wouldn't survive the next. If you have a scary experience or an interesting adventure of your own, we want to feature it in our upcoming videos. Head over to the link in the description to share your story with us. Thanks for watching, and we can't wait to read what you have to share. Despite how well everything was going in both Jude's and Dave's lives, everything would come crashing down in 2008, 2 years after Jude showed up in Canada. Dave got a phone call from his employer, the local newspaper, who told him he needed to head into town to take some pictures of a crash that had just happened. A helicopter had been flying over Middenhut conducting a power line survey when they had lost power and crashed. The pilot and the two people who were doing the survey all died on impact. Dave, like everybody else who heard about this, was totally shocked. 1, because it was totally tragic and horrible, and 2, because nothing ever happened in Middenhut, so to have something so big like this happen right downtown was just unheard of. And so Dave hopped in his car, and he began making his way towards the crash site, and it didn't take long before he saw this massive ring of people right at the intersection between 10th and 14th Street. They were all on the sidewalk and up on buildings, and everyone was just looking in towards this massive mound of jagged metal that was on fire, and all this black smoke was coming off of it, and there were ambulances nearby and police, and the fire department was there, and they were trying to put out the flames, but they couldn't do it. And so Dave parks his car and he rushes over to this ring of people and he walks his way towards the front. He pulls out his camera and he began taking pictures, first of the wreckage and the fire and then also of the police as they put tarps over the bodies. Little did Dave know, these pictures he was taking were about to take on a whole new meaning for him. Jude wrapped up his final class of the day, and after he was done, he remembered he had some letters in his backpack that he had been meaning to mail to his family back in Nigeria, and so he decided on his way home he would make a detour to the post office, and he would mail those letters. He stepped out into the streets, put his headphones on, and then he began to walk to the post office to drop his letter. As he was crossing 10th Street, a helicopter above lost power and crashed directly on top of Isaiah. It's believed, because Isaiah was listening to music on his headphones, he didn't even hear the helicopter as it was crashing down. He was just walking, and then he was dead. It wasn't until later that day, that Dave would realize the pictures he had taken of this scene included pictures of his friend. If you enjoyed this story and would love to hear more, support us by sharing your story, liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Thank you and see you on the next one.